Welcome back, friends, viewers, enemies, trolls. Today we're going to be attempting yet another... This is probably going to be attempt number 12 or 13 for good measure of installing an operating system on the iMac G3 Revision B. This machine has its original 4GB hard drive, and it was fully functioning when I got it until I got the brilliant idea of erasing the hard drive and installing Mac OS 9. Yeah, she was a good runner. You know, this isn't going to work. No, this is not going to work. We need to do something a little bit more drastic. Well, it couldn't hurt, right? Okay, so now that we've assumed the OS installation position for the iMac G3, let's go ahead and proceed to do this and get it over with once and for all. At least I hope. The disk that I'm going to be trying right now was built from an image that was sent to me by a viewer, what I will mention in the video once I edit the footage down. This is allegedly an original copy of the original G3 Revision B Restore CD. So let's see what happens. The power of Steve Jobs compels you. The power of Steve Jobs compels... It's working. Fancy that. Okay. Alright. Well, it booted. That's half the battle. This is 851, which is exactly what this machine, I believe, has been calling for all along. Let's run the Apple software restore. Okay, configuration, iMac HD.img, restore in place, erase untitled, standard format, restore. The operation will erase the... Oh, I thought that was an error. No, it's not. Just a warning. Well. I think we solved our problem. Special thanks to DJ Computer Guy for supplying me the image that I needed. I have been desperately looking for this image for oh so very long. Oh, so very long. This is the image that I've been looking for, and I have not been able to find it. But thank you, thank you, thank you. In a future video, I'm going to show you how to get candle wax out of a towel. Stay tuned. This is the happiest dialog box I have seen in months. Alright, at this point, we've finished the OS install and we've shut it down. Before I continue, I want to talk about this specific computer. And in a later video, I'm going to focus more on the history of the iMac, what it meant to the computer industry as a whole, and how it was so important to especially computers targeted towards consumers. I'm also going to talk a little bit about my own experiences with the iMac when it was new, and what I initially thought of it. So let's talk about this particular machine. So I bought this from its original owner. He worked in the educational sector, and for his home computer he chose an iMac when they first were released. Now this is not the initial release iMac, this is the Revision B. The Revision A was filled with quite a few hardware glitches. It also had a very limited graphics adapter, only 2 megabytes of video RAM. And there were some improvements made, of course, in the revision B. I don't know the specifics, but I'm sure they're well documented elsewhere. So what more can I tell you about this machine? So I paid $50 for it. It came with the original box. It did not come with the original keyboard. It came with a later model keyboard from what I believe to be an iMac. I did get the original mouse and not the original power cord. Fortunately, I already had these items set aside for the event where I would eventually find an original iMac in good condition. I didn't want the Revision A. I've had Revision A's before. I didn't quite like them that much. They were pretty limited and just didn't perform very well. But anyway, I had planned on acquiring an original iMac for quite some time, but finding one locally is a challenge because they only pop up ever so often, and people usually want full collector prices for them. We're talking hundreds of dollars. They see something outlined in a newspaper article as the computer that changed history, and suddenly every iMac is now worth $500. We've seen it all. We've all seen this happen, and especially as computer collectors. Just look at eBay pricing on some of this stuff. It's insane. Doesn't mean it's worth it unless somebody pays it. I always go by the saying, it's only worth what someone's willing to pay. Now, for me, I was only willing to pay $50 for a clean example of an original iMac, and that's exactly what I paid. I was waiting for the seller to go down in price, and he ultimately did. He wanted $125, I got it for $50. So always remember that you can usually bargain these prices down, and sometimes it takes patience. I didn't expect him to sell it to me, but he did. So this iMac is in as good condition as I have ever seen one in. I have never seen one in this condition, even when they were relatively new. This one has not a scratch, not a crack, not a missing piece anywhere. It had the plastic on the little flip-down foot on the bottom here. It has the original 4 GB hard drive. Most of those have either failed and been replaced or been upgraded anyway. But this one has managed to survive, which tells me that it has fairly low hours. When I took the motherboard chassis out, there's actually split into 2 chassis. You've got your logic chassis and your analog chassis. The logic chassis contains the motherboard, CD drive, hard drive, and I believe the mezzanine and all the ports. So that comes out by itself, and it was designed for easy removal. I should emphasize that. Very easy to work on. Anything having to do with the analog chassis is pretty much non-serviceable for a couple of reasons that I'll get into. Well, why not right now? So Apple built these machines from a particular type of plastic that has a tendency to get brittle over time, more so than anything I've ever seen before. When these machines were 5 to maybe 10 years old, tearing them apart wasn't a destructive process. But as they've gotten older, trying to remove clips and the little screw covers that go over here, they tend to shatter with just the slightest amount of pressure. So if you buy one of these things, make sure the display doesn't whistle and check it for blurriness or convergence issues, because if you find one that has those problems, there's a high risk of complete destruction if you try to disassemble it to repair the problem. So I had to find one with low hours, and when I took the motherboard out, I was enlightened to find almost 0 dust buildup inside the machine, which means that it was not used in a classroom setting or in an office or run constantly. Because ones that are filled with dust are going to have a lot more hours on them, and you're going to have a higher likelihood of failure. So this machine also had been upgraded to 160 megabytes of RAM. You know, originally it shipped with 32 megabytes, which is, yeah, okay for a machine from 1999 when this was made. But, you know. So let's talk about, so the Revision A was the 2 megabyte video, but same processor, and there were some other hardware improvements. The Revision B kept the Revision A's mezzanine slot, which was used for certain expansion options. You've got your dual headphone jacks, and you've got your infrared window here. The revision C, you lost the infrared window, lost the mezzanine slot, and there were some other hardware changes. I think they went to it from a 233 G3 700 to a 266. So there were some changes and improvements as the model progressed until you hit the slot loader models. And I personally avoid the slot loaders because I find they have a lot more problems. The original G3 tray loader, as it's known, has a cooling fan which helps keep the analog board and the CRT chassis in good running condition by preventing it from overheating. Steve Jobs depended on convection cooling for the later models, and it didn't work out so well for him. So let's talk about peripherals. Now, the original iMac G3 revision A and B shipped with a keyboard that looks identical to this one, with one exception. On the bottom, you're going to find a hologram. The original keyboard had a green, or like an aquamarine hologram, the same color as this mouse right here. See that hologram? Yeah, you see this one? One of these is not like the other. The original Bondi blue keyboard had a bluish, greenish hologram versus a steel blue. So that's the only difference. The color is, I believe this is the right color. This is a keyboard that I had in my parts bin, and I tore it apart and I cleaned it thoroughly. And cleaning these keys actually isn't that bad. You just prop them off and clean them with a degreaser, and I use a couple of different chemicals. I use a degreaser, and then I'll use like a dish soap, Dawn dish soap. And if that doesn't work, I'll use Windex, and Windex is what ultimately cleans them up nicely. The mouse, let's talk about the mouse. So the revision A and B mouse is going to have the same blue hologram on the bottom, but it's also going to have a blue and white trackball like that. And you're also going to find the original mouse has no divot on the button. Let's take a look at one that is modified. So in later revisions, the hockey puck mouse, which was sadly retained, and people hated. Nobody likes these mice. They suck. They are the most. This is one of the most user hostile mice ever designed, which is why I like it so much, because it's just. I accept this iMac G3 for its what makes it great and what makes it not so great, the good and the bad. The mouse was the worst thing Apple ever designed. It's perfectly round, so you can't always tell what direction it's in. So if you set it, if you're trying to pick it up or move it around, and you don't actually feel the cord, which most people don't really think to look for, the mouse cursor will just move in the wrong direction. It's a lot of fun. Anyway, the revision, the second version of this, which I think came out with the iMac Rev C, you've got a gray and white trackball. You've got a steel blue retention ring, and you've got a divot to help you find the direction of the mouse if you're blindly feeling for it. It also has a white circuit board, whereas the original has a green circuit board. The original mice were manufactured by Logitech under contract. Okay, let's talk power cords. Now, power cords are usually pretty mundane, usually pretty straightforward. I mean, they all use the same plug. But the original iMac's power plug, in fact, the entire production run of the iMac has had a special cord for each generation. Of course, we all know the flat panel ones have a little plastic cap on the plug, on the Molex connector, and they're usually white. And then at some point they went from a standard shaped plug to one that's kind of rounded off. Well, in the first iMac, you had this translucent, kind of a teal tinted cord with, you could see each individual wire. And that was, of course, to go along with the translucent theme of the case, which was by the way, this was the first time I believe anyone's used a translucent case on a computer, with one exception. The Muller Mac, which was produced exclusively for the educational market, used a translucent top cover, which, by the way, the Muller Mac is one of the most bizarrely designed Apple products and one of the ugliest hands down, no contest, the ugliest Mac ever made. But it was built like a tank. And it had support for both zip, floppy, and CD-ROM built right in, which was kind of cool. But anyway, the original iMac G3 revision A and B used this cord. In fact, I think when they went to the slot loader design, so even the revision C used these, I think. The slot loaders went to a white cord, if I recall. It was a white cord. Yeah, not even translucent, it was opaque. If I'm wrong, correct me on that. But I believe it was a white cord on those. Oh, it was white with clear plugs on each end. They were clear plugs. It was a white cord. And what happened to those, the clear parts, the clear molded pieces would turn like black after 20 years. Or 15 or so. Something like that. Anyway, yeah. So this cord I had in my parts bin. I like to save things, and this is why. I bought the iMac because I wanted a clean example of one because they're so iconic and they're getting hard to find and they're starting to rapidly increase in value. Not rapidly like Bitcoin, but they're going up in value. As more and more people realize how iconic and unique they are, they're not even using these machines. They're just using them as decorative items in their homes. You can thank hipster millennials for that. But they're cool. And I guess that makes me a hipster millennial. So let's fire it up. Let's see how much success we achieved here. Now, the CD image, which I made this disc from, was sent to me by DJ Computer Guy. Thank you very much. Once again, you're a real mensch. I would not have been able to make this video without your efforts. It simply would not be possible. And I now realize that possibility is that the 851 disc that I ordered, which should be here next week, may not even work. So you saved my life here. You really did. You really pulled through. I could not find an original Bondi G3 Restore CD for the life of me. And I found some on eBay, but people want stupid money for them. Because they're rare. Anyway, let's fire it up. Chime of life. You'll notice that the power indicator stays orange until the CRT kicks in. You know, it was a great time to be alive when computers had power lights to let you know they were on. Or sleeping. Apple, are you listening? Okay. I thought not. Well, folks, this is a good sign. It looks like we have some success. It's not every day that this is a successful operation. This worked. Now, am I planning on updating it to 8.6? Well, I have the disk right here, and I could literally do that. No. No, I'm not planning on improving upon it at all. Yeah, I could run OS 10 on this, sure. But why? I have better machines to run OS 10 on. No, I plan on keeping this machine exactly as you see it. I might load some software on there, but for the most part, it's going to keep its original build because I think that's what it needs. This is a piece of history, not a useful object to me. This is a machine that I plan on preserving, not enjoying. It's really going to be a decorative piece. I have no desire to upgrade it beyond 851 because, again, that's what it shipped with, and that's what it will remain with. I am not putting a solid-state disk in this because that's not the right thing to do. We need to preserve these machines as they were built because that is the right thing to do. I'm going to change a few settings here. The only modification this machine has from its factory configuration is the RAM has been upgraded to 160 where it had 32. But that's it. In all other aspects, it's exactly as it left Apple's factory, and Taiwan or Shanghai or wherever the hell it was made. There's no software on this machine really at all, and I'm going to change the appearance. So, from what I remember, and I believe this to be true, that the original restore CDs for each color iMac, as they progressed into the colored models, the tangerines, the strawberries, etc., blueberry, the original restore CD would come up with whatever color the Mac was. It would come up with the whatever that lollipop color was from the lollipop background. So the Bondi Blues came up with a... There actually is one called Bondi Blue. Let's see. No, there isn't. Not in this version. I thought there was. I thought there was a Bondi Blue background. Mac OS defaults. Roswell. Oh, I got the platinum sounds on. I must have turned those on by accident. There we go. Hear that? Nice. Here we go. Oh, here we are. Desktop background is Bondi medium. Remove picture. Oh, here we go. Bondi extra dark. And that would set your desktop background color. Place picture. 3D graphics. Capsule. Oh, that's a cool one. Oh, I love it. Anyway. So, in a later video, we're going to talk about the iMac G3 and its place in history. I'm going to try to talk about some of my own experiences with the original iMac when it first came out, what my original thoughts were, and I look forward to making that video. It's going to be hard to do. I've already tried doing this a few times with limited success. But let's wrap it up, I guess. I'm going to set the date and time of this thing because, damn it. I got a new clock battery in here too, so that's been done. I did that just a little while ago. I love playing with these backgrounds. There's so many cool backgrounds in OS 9. 8, Mac OS 8. Convergence. Is that the one? Oh, that's not the one I think it is. No, never mind. Anyway. Until then, guys, peace out.